You already know you want more. You can feel it, that pull towards something bigger. This podcast is for anyone who's done waiting for permission. I'm Julia McKelgan. I'm a geologist, a founder, and the author of A Life Chosen. And every week I have conversations with people who decided, quietly, precisely, and without apology, to choose the bigger life. This is Choose Life Boldly. Welcome. Sharon Marshall turned childhood hardship, self-doubt, and ageism into a blueprint for bold reinvention. If you've ever wondered whether it's too late to start over, build something new, or finally trust your own brilliance, this conversation will change the way you think about what's possible. I sit down with Sharon to unpack the lived experience behind her drive from growing up with poverty, abuse, and alcoholism to imposter syndrome and ageism, and how these become the fuel to building a life of purpose. You'll also discover why imagination is not childish, but the doorway to expansion, and how to recognize limiting beliefs before they shrink your future. Sharon also shares how divine timing has shaped the turning points in her life, including the painful experiences she cannot understand at the time, but now sees part of a bigger path. She explains why setbacks are not proof that you're failing, and how reframing can help you keep from turning disappointment into self-blame. We also talk about her new book, How to Become a Kick-Ass Virtual Assistant from Side Gig to a Thriving VA Business, her Diva Accelerator program for Indigenous women, and the work she's doing with women in remote communities to build real income, skills, and confidence. If you need permission to start late, change directions, and trust your instincts, or stop letting age define what is possible, this conversation will meet you exactly where you are. Essential listening for anybody ready to stop shrinking and start choosing life boldly. So welcome to another episode of Choose Life Boldly. Today, I'm very excited to have Sharon Marshall as my guest, and I can't wait to dive into our conversation and hear all the wisdom and all of the stories and experiences. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you so much, Julia. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm excited for this opportunity.
Awesome. Well, Sharon, I thought maybe you could give a quick introduction of yourself, and then we can go into our story.
I am a Cree Métis, mother of two young adults, 26 and 25, and they don't live too far from me. And I'm on the traditional unceded and ancestral territory of the Snanawas First Nation of the Coast Salish people here on Vancouver Island. So that is Nanoose Bay area. And really, it's in Landsville. So that's mid-island. And I've been here for about 6 years. I love Vancouver Island. But originally, I'm from Edmonton. And I'm an administrative professional. I have a couple of businesses. And I work part-time as an executive director for a nonprofit. And I'm also an author. I just published a book last month.
Thanks, Sharon. So I think one of the things I have always admired about you is your continuous drive and strive to learn and grow, and your curious nature for expanding who you are. I mean, recently you did an MBA, you just published a book, but you've also started businesses. I'd like to know, like, what is this curiosity that keeps coming up to the surface?
That's a good question. And I think I've questioned that myself over the years. And I think it stems from the way I was raised. It stems from my childhood and me feeling less than, not and living in, the way I was raised. As I mentioned, I'm Cree Métis, so I was raised in a very stereotypical Native upbringing, and where I was raised with poverty, abuse, alcoholism, and at a very young age, I realized I couldn't rely on anybody. I had to rely on myself, and so I left home at an early age. I have always just been driven to better myself. When I was in high school, there was no talk about university, and so I didn't have a university degree. So as I'm bettering myself and trying to climb the corporate ladder, I felt that lack of a degree really was holding me back. So I did what I could within, my abilities. And I started my own business at that point, figuring if I could work that hard for someone else, I can do it for myself and maybe I'll get better results. I've actually had a few businesses in my life. And I think, the very first business I had was our little lemonade stand when we were a kid,
Hmm.
right? The entrepreneurial spirit has always been with me. From there, I went to sell a Regal catalog that I don't know if you're too young to know what that is, but I'd go around with this catalog and show the neighbors the goods, and then they'd order and they'd have to pay up front, and then I'd have to deliver the products to them and I'd get a commission. And so that was pretty cool. And that was at I don't
Hmm.
know, 11 or 12 years old, just doing what I can to better myself, to bring income in and really just stretching my imagination.
Yeah, for sure. So, how important is imagination, and how important is that visualization on where you want to go for you?
Yeah, it's very important. I follow my intuition. I follow my drive. I follow what I feel is divinely inspired because when I haven't, it hasn't been a good experience for me. So imagining and I don't know, have you ever read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert? She talks about creativity. It's so inspiring. We are all creative beings, and I believe that our potential is for greatness, and we get limited by limiting beliefs for one thing, but by society. What society tends to set the boundaries for us. And some people will think that the only way they can do life is, their 9 to 5 job and they get off work and then they watch a little TV, have dinner and go to bed and do it all over again. And to me, that's not what we're here for. And that's not to say I haven't done that myself. I've been in slumps where that has all I felt capable of doing, but eventually something inside of us will be gnawing at us, telling us, there's more to life than that. And then we, go for a walk and have this vision, like, or be inspired by a conversation you had with a stranger. And those are all little inklings from the creator telling us that, we're on the right path by following that breadcrumb. So yes, imagination is the doorway to expansion. It's the doorway to a greatness.
Mm, that's so important because as a child, their imagination, that is their play. That is how they see the world, right?
Yeah.
And everything is imagination. And it doesn't, whether they're imagining who they're going to be when they're older or what they're going to do at birthday party, they imagine all these things. And there's so much, when you watch a child in their imagination, there's so much life force in and around them and so much energy.
And then
So,
at some point, as we grow up, we tend to lose that. Society gets in the
yeah,
way and teaches us that we have to be responsible and we have to go to school till grade 12 and then get a university degree and then get a master's degree and buy a house and get married. And it's hard to use your imagination when you're living life with all those expectations, right?
yeah. I remember when 21 or 22 and I wasn't dating anybody and I was crying after a night out with one of my friends and I was just sobbing that my life wasn't going down this path because I was supposed to be ready to get married and ready to have children, right after university. And that pathway wasn't opening up. And there was so much disappointment in something I couldn't control. And yet I thought I needed to achieve at a certain age. And I lost out on so much joy and happiness of being 21, thinking about, I need to be getting married and I need to be having kids right now. That's the next step because there's so many societal rules that if we just follow them blindly, they take away from what you explained as our greatness, right?
Yeah, totally.
Earlier, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about imposter syndrome. I just thought I'd open that door a little bit. And how do you deal with imposter syndrome and what does it show you?
So when I think of that word, well, there's been many instances where I have felt it, but One of the ones that stand out the most for me is when I first was taking my MBA program. So I'm in my sixth decade. And so here I am. I think I was 59 when I enrolled in the program. And our first day, because of COVID, we had to. I kept deferring my start date because I was thinking COVID was going to end, and then I wanted to have that experience because I hadn't been an undergrad, so I didn't have that experience of being with the cohort and the residency. And I heard that that was the best part of the MBA program was the 2 residencies. So I was really looking forward to that experience. And we just ended up doing it online. So, and our cohort was with the biggest ever. And we had 80 classmates.
Oh,
So here I am. I got into the program. Royal Roads has a flexible program, a flexible entry. And so, based on my 10 years of business experience and yada, 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 I got in, was qualified to be there. But then we have our meet and greet, and I'm meeting all the other classmates, and they're all professionals. They're all, like, to me, way more professional than me. And I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable, like I didn't belong there. And then somebody, I don't know, an engineer or somebody piped up and introduced himself and said, I'm feeling imposter syndrome big time here. And I'm looking at him going, what? And then a few others, because he said it, basically gave them permission to say it as well. And they piped up and said the same thing. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, how can these people be feeling imposter syndrome? So then I realized at that moment that, it's just something we all struggle with. It doesn't matter who you are. And since then, I have seen even celebrities admit that they have felt imposter syndrome at times. And so, you know what? It's this thing that we all will feel. And I don't know. It's like when we feel fear, our monkey brain just trying to keep us safe, really. But we are not in any unsafe predicament in these instances, right? And so we just need to move past it and realize that we're going to feel it and just move through it. Get out there on those skinny branches because that's where all the growth is. And so we're going to feel like an imposter at times, and that's just the way it is. And just don't let it, like, there's the little imposter dude there, and then there's the little angel dude there, and just shove this one off of your shoulder and carry on because it's just too much noise, and it's not true. It really isn't.
no. What I find fascinating is that once somebody is vulnerable enough to share that's how they're feeling, how many other people quickly follow it. It's like they want to get it off of their heart and out into the open so
Yeah.
that you can almost deal with it then. If I can label it, if I can name it, if I can admit it and be honest, then maybe it'll go away.
Yeah. And it gives other people the idea that, okay, well, if they can do it, then and be vulnerable, then I can do the same. And that's really the lesson there is, we need to realize how brilliant we are and not to be boastful or, arrogant or anything like that, but just what we have, we're in the program for, or if it's a program, we're in this program with just like everybody else, where we qualify just like everybody else, whatever it is, we have the skills, we have the wherewithal, we are totally within our rights to be here.
Um, Absolutely. And it, when you said we're brilliant, can you expand on that in terms of anybody who is listening? What do you actually mean by that?
In the work that I do with Indigenous women, because I have felt less than many times in my life,
Mhm.
but I have come out of that, and I have proven to myself over and over again how brilliant I am. I have gotten myself out of situations. I have problem solved things that I never thought I could do. I have proven to myself over and over and over again that I am brilliant. That's not arrogance. That's we all
No.
have that within us. We're taught, especially women are not taught to think highly of ourselves. It's actually the other way. In this patriarchal society, we have been held back tremendously from our potential. Like, so the program, my Diva Accelerator, so I teach Indigenous women how to become virtual assistants, or I teach them the skills to use their laptop to better themselves in some way, shape, or form, whatever that might be. And if they want, they can become virtual assistants. They can go work in an office, but now they have the office skills and not just the hard skills. They have the soft skills. They have communication, listening, all of those skills that are required to get employment and to seek opportunities and take advantage of opportunities. And they come out of the program really more self-assured. They realize that they are capable of so much more than when they started. Like, we started off by reading a book, for example, in the first week, and a lot of them are like, I haven't read a book in years, or I can't read a book in a week. And by the end of the week, they're like, I read a book in a week, you know? And so
Wow.
that's just building their confidence. And they start to realize that, for whatever reason, have felt that they are not capable, but they start to see themselves as much more capable than they first realized. And that's really a powerful thing when a woman realizes her potential.
I think underneath all of that, underneath brilliance, you just said it. You need confidence and you need to recognize your potential. And when those two come together, then you can really start to shine. And that's when your brilliance comes out.
Yeah.
Is the culmination of knowing your potential and having the confidence to step into it.
And I think when you're in that space too, then your imagination expands, and you can start to imagine a better life for yourself, right? You start to think, hey, I want to do that. And maybe before you thought that was out of reach, out of touch for you, but now you're thinking, I can do that. I just proved that I could do this.
I want to touch on this idea of being too old to do something. Like you just said that you went back to school at 59. You've always stepped out on the path, and it doesn't matter where you are in life and where you came from. You're like, I'm taking this step. And right now there's idea that people are too old to do something. We see it in corporate. We see people holding themselves back. So what is your take on age and being too old?
Well, I'm starting to come to terms with my age now. It's taken a while, and I'm not quite there yet. It's interesting because I don't feel 63. I feel, I don't know, in my 30s or 40s. So I don't know what 63 is supposed to look or feel like. But the only thing is, ageism is a real thing for sure. And however, work-wise, the last corporate job I had, I was the oldest in the team, and that felt a little uncomfortable. And it was me. It was just me not feeling I didn't have the background that everybody else did. And so I felt like I was catching up. And really, I didn't feel as qualified as I should have for the role. And I even asked my manager, like, why'd you hire me? And he told me one of them is my presence. I just appeared to have wisdom in the answers that I provided in the interview, and that drew them in. And I have to take all that into consideration as well, right? It's all information that helps me to better accept my age. And there's still so much I want to do. And so what am I supposed to do? Because I'm 63, and society says a 63-year-old is supposed to be like, not wear that little dress and that sort of thing. And no, that I don't follow society in that respect anymore. And I just follow my heart. And I know that I'm being divinely guided. And it just happens that I'm a late bloomer.
Well, I don't know if it's late blooming or you just keep going. Like you just have this innate drive to always try something different and try something new, no matter what stage you're at.
Because there's still so much to do. So,
Yeah.
I gotta keep moving on. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what is this, how does divine timing play into all of this for you?
Yeah, this time in my life, it is much more significant for me than when I look back. Oh, it has always been a factor. You know, before we started today, I pulled a card and I got vulture spirit, nothing is wasted.
Oh,
And so
that's cool.
the message in this is that when what seems rotten and ugly has potential to be transmuted into something beneficial. And that's true. Because I've had some horrific experiences. And some people would say, well, where was the divine timing and all of that? Well, I think that it was exactly where it was supposed to be. Like I was supposed to have that experience. I believe that everything that happens happens to us for a reason. I don't believe it's random. I,
Mm,
and like we have choices. Just look at one day, for example. How many decisions do you think you make in a day, right? We can start off the day the same and have the same choices laid out in front of us, and and yet whatever decision we make, if it's different than the day before, we're going to veer off over here or over there. And that is like divine timing. Okay, so if you were not really supposed to go there, you were supposed to go here, you're going to like that. It's going to be an experience where you can look back and say, okay, well, that hindsight is 2020. We can say that, but divine timing is with us all the time. Especially if we are aware, but we can't be. I don't know that we can be aware all the time. At least I can't. In August 2026, I am much more aware than I've ever been in my life. Maybe than I was as a child, because I believe when we're little, we have it all. We just and we get conditioned, and we lose a lot of
mm,
it. But divine timing, I believe, is with us all the time. And it's a easier pill to swallow if you believe in divine timing than, well, that was a shitty experience, or you're waiting for something to happen and it doesn't happen, and then it happens later on down the road. Well, because other things were, in the background being created or whatever to make that experience the experience that you really needed to have in your life. If it would have happened before, it wouldn't have been exactly what you needed, right?
right.
So I believe that it's really integral to our existence.
Well, it makes sense because we're on earth as spiritual, soulful human beings. And one of the biggest journeys is our evolution. So if we can't learn from different experiences along the way, then how do you go from being a child to being somebody who has incredible wisdom? You only get that through your experiences, and your experiences show up when you're ready to learn from them, which is that divine timing. And when you refuse to learn from an experience, that is still divine timing, but you've got your free will in that aspect, right? Where you're like, I don't want to learn from that, or you're avoiding it, or you're choosing an indecision even to recognize that awareness. And so then divine timing shows up again.
Yeah, and if you can just accept divine timing as the course corrector, as the positive in your life, and so then if you can accept that and understand that divine timing is a thing, then perhaps you won't be so disappointed when that opportunity didn't happen, or you didn't get the job, or you know because we can get so caught up in the things that we want, and when they don't happen, we can just go back to those self-limiting beliefs, like, oh, I didn't get it because I'm stupid, or I'm not qualified enough, or whatever, right? Now we're beating
Right.
ourselves up when really, if we turn that around and say, okay, I didn't get that, maybe the creator has something better in store for me, so I'm just going to wait it out. That's a much
Right.
better narrative.
Yeah.
It's healthier. Like, why are
Oh
we
gosh,
beating,
yeah.
like, we tend to beat ourselves up over these things, and if we can just accept divine timing as, our the course corrector, or our saving grace, then I think it's much healthier.
Mm. It also takes out that it's all about us. and that we're in control.
Yeah, control, we have no control really. So let me just throw that out the window.
Right. Yeah.
The sooner we come to terms with that, the better off we'll be as humans.
Abs- I wanted to touch on your book a little bit and just maybe tell us a little bit about your book and why you wrote it.
I started it in 2017, How to Become a Kick-Ass Virtual Assistant,
Awesome.
from side gig to a thriving VA business. So I was a VA virtual assistant on the side of my desk I started working for a company called Cyber Secretaries. They were offering general transcription work. And so I loved it. I could do the work when my kids were little. I could do the work when my husband and my kids were sleeping. And it had helped bring in income, and I was getting paid quite decently. It was $25 an hour US. So it was $20 an
Nice.
hour US. So that worked out to about 25, I think it was back then. And a year after doing that work, I started my own business and doing virtual support work on the side of my desk while I had a full-time job, a corporate job, and trying to climb that ladder. So in 2017, I decided I needed to write a book. And it was a much different book than this. It was much more systems oriented because I was still getting clear on where my path was going to take me. And I had I incorporated creative collaboration to bring programs and services to remote Indigenous communities. And the first program was the Diva Accelerator, and that is my program to teach women in remote communities how to become virtual assistants. And because I learned all the horrifying statistics of these remote communities, the unemployment rate was 50% or higher. If there was work for
Mm-hmm.
women, it was menial work for menial pay, that sort of thing. And so I thought, how can I help? And actually, being a VA would be a great option for these women in these remote communities. And so I wanted to write this book. In the end, I wrote this book to be a companion to the Diva Accelerator. And so
Mm.
when I started, and so I've had 60 women go through my Diva Accelerator. And at the start of each module, or at the start of the module one, like I mentioned, they had to read a book, and it was Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, because I wanted them to start off learning how creativity is going to help them. And now I'm going to give them this book because it's going to be a guide for them. Whether they take the course or not, they can learn how to start their own business as a virtual assistant with the tips and tricks and lessons that I have in this book. My ecosystem is it's remote work. So I teach women how to become virtual assistants. I wrote a book on
Mm.
how to become a virtual assistant, and I coach through creative collaboration. I coach small businesses and entrepreneurs on how to create systems for themselves and prepare to work with an admin assistant or a virtual assistant.
That's amazing, Sharon. Your whole package of helping people in remote communities, helping women in remote communities find a way to help themselves and create an income and create a revenue stream for themselves is incredible.
Thank you. Well, I've proven it. I've done it myself, and that's why
Absolutely.
it's so important. This has to me. Talk about divine timing. Everything that I have gone through in my life has led me to this. My experiences have, I have lived experience, so I can talk about, how this changed my life with a boyfriend after we split up. I ended up having to leave in the middle of the night with my two kids and leaving town. And so that meant I had to leave my job. And so
Mm-hmm.
how do I support myself? And the last two cohorts of my accelerator, I had partnered with a nonprofit who supports women coming out of domestic violence. And so I've got lived experience there. And so it was an important 2 years working with those women, helping them to learn how to regulate themselves and take care of their trauma so that they can actually learn the tools and do the work and perhaps get work afterwards where they don't have to worry about, where they live. They can do it remotely and still look after their kids and be safe.
Absolutely. And because you lived through it, you can connect with them and you can show them and also take away a blanket of excuses, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay, well, this has been such a great conversation. There, again, you've shared so many great perspectives. But I have one last question for you. And what is your definition or your take on choosing life boldly?
Um, uh, Knowing your purpose and like I use the word freedom a lot, and so freedom for me is knowing my purpose because it opens a pathway for me to joy and blessings, and so walking out on those skinny branches, and it's
Mm.
staring fear in the face and saying, like going anyways.
Yeah. Yeah,
Choosing life boldly.
absolutely.
It's being courageous or brave, having purpose and remaining positive. There's always a positive side to everything, and not to say that we need to sugarcoat or not the positive toxicity. To know that, like divine timing is upon us, and just believing in yourself. Believing in
Mm.
yourself. I've I have over and over again come back to I know that I can do this. I am capable. I have proven that to myself over and over again. So I'm going for it.
Awesome. Yes, you are the definition of choosing life boldly, Sharon. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much. This has been, yeah, very exciting for me. I'm thrilled for you and this podcast, and looking forward to more of all of this.
Absolutely. Thanks. Now that's what choosing boldly looks like. Not loud, not perfect, just decided. If this conversation connected with you, please share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Find me at juliamckelgan.com and know that A Life Chosen arrives in September and there's a course coming as well. I'll see you in the next one.